Good morning. All right. My name's Jason, obviously. I'm here to share with you a little bit about an accident, but more importantly, some of the things I've actually learned over the last 22 years since my accident. Because 6 years ago, when I first started doing these presentations, I just believe that I went to work one day, had an accident. It is only by doing what I do now, I have realised that it should not have happened. Now, I'm going to share with you everything about my life, and some is quite personal. It is not my intention to offend anybody, so if I do say something for whatever reason you just don't want to listen to, just want to start aside, it does not offend me at all. But all I do say that if I am going to do this, I do have to tell you everything, okay? Now, 6 years ago, when I first started, I sort of had a 10-15 minute presentation all about my accident. But it doesn't last. You know, people have heard accident stories before. And what we try and do is it's more long-lasting by the use of live presentations and media and DVDs, and stop this being in the moment and think about safety all the time. So, what do we try and do? And it's all about pushing safety. Beyond compliance. Yeah, because there comes a point you actually doing safety because you choose to do it, and not because you're told to do it. There's a difference. So, what is the aim of this presentation? Well, after this, I'm going to try and change your attitude to safety. By that much. Just that much. Because if mine was different, their mics, and by that much, this would not have happened. So, let's go. This is not just a work height presentation, by the way. I use work height example of a journey. We've all been in safety, because obviously this is what happened to me. So I'll take it. No, I promise a clicker. Everyone is familiar with the photograph, yeah? It's iconic. The 1930s. That was a $200 million project, and back then, for every $1 million they spent, they would probably kill one person. So, prior to construction, they had decided by the time we finished, we'll probably kill around 200 guys. Now, luckily, they didn't kill that many, but it would have been acceptable. Okay? So, let's go a bit closer home. To the 1970s. That is 1977. It's John Noakes from Blue Peter. And as part of the TV programme is behind Nelson's column. This is 1977. See what you think.
A long way, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
How high is it?
Oh, it's about 180 feet, I think.
Is it? How are the ladders fixed on? Very firmly?
They're roped quite firmly around the actual column itself.
Yeah.
And they're very secure, like.
Our cameraman, Terry, was waiting at the top, and he really did have a bird's eye view of me reaching the worst part of the climb. At this level, the plinth on which Nelson stands overhangs the column. I found myself literally hanging from the ladder with nothing at all beneath me.
You told me there was overhang, but you didn't tell me it leant to one side.
No, that was the awkward part.
It's a long way up, really, isn't it? I suppose before I go down, I had to go right to the very top.
Why not?
So what do you think? It's crackers, it's crazy. But that was 1977. And we all know back then safety was a lot different, because it used to work more along the lines of that you might know something was dangerous, but we will keep on doing it till what had to happen first before there'd be any change. Yeah, there'd be the accident. And then we'd all say it has been like that for years. But when it actually happened, we used to do nothing about it. We just reacted to the accidents. Now, John Noakes, he was well known Blue Peter. He got some scary things. I feel a bit sorry for Terry with his camera. But actually, I'm more interested in Reg at the top of that tower without a care in the world. So, do you believe that the job had become less dangerous to Reg over time? Less dangerous? I don't think so. So, what had he lost over time? Yeah, his sense of fear. So jobs don't become less dangerous, they become less scary. And when a job has become less scary to me, I'm more likely then to take a few shortcuts. Okay, so I was asked to do these presentations just over 6 years ago. And my response to the guy who asked me as well, surely people don't still fall. You know, you got this equipment today, so no, they're still falling. So we've gone to a place, we've got the latest equipment, sent all the training courses, and unfortunately, we are still regularly having the accidents. But some people actually say to me, they believe all safety today has gone too far. At the end of the day, we are trying to get a job done. You see, my problem is, the guys in the 1930s, 1970s did not have a choice. But we do. And yet sometimes we still choose not to use the equipment. Sometimes we still choose to work unsafely. And unfortunately still, we are waiting until it's too late. Maybe you're going to see a friend in hospital, maybe you're going to his funeral. And then it is too late to be thinking, I watched as my colleague work unsafe, and I said nothing. Too late for a manager or a supervisor then to be thinking, have I gone and put too much pressure on my lads to go and get a job done? You know, something like this is too late. So now, I'd like to introduce Fergus. This is my daughter's husband, got married a few months ago, a professional boxer. He will train every single day. And yet, for the first 12 weeks for his first fight, he has to up his training regime. So, more running, more sparring. And so, the moment that Fergus steps into that ring, he's as fit as he could possibly be. Now, I think you all know that boxing is a dangerous sport. And Fergus does accept that when he steps into that ring, of course, they will always remain a danger. Let's say, for some bizarre reason, for the first 12 weeks, for his first fight, he had done no extra training at all. None. What do you think probably the most obvious outcome from his first fight would have been? Being polite. Yeah, he lost. Knocked out even. Say he was knocked out in the very first round. Then he spends a couple of days in hospital. So you're along for a visit. Come on, Fergus. That's not like you. Knocked out the first round. What was the problem? He said, well, actually, I have done no training for 12 weeks. What would you say? Again, being polite. You're an idiot. It's your own fault. And that's all I'm saying in my presentation is because no matter what we do, how many courses we're sent on, how much gear we're provided with, when we are back in the workplace, they will always remain a danger. And the very moment you actually step back from safety, all you're actually doing is increasing the risk of something going wrong because there are still things out there that we can't control. Much like Fergus, he can't control the guy he's fighting. Now he can win the next big thing, give Fergus a bit of a beating, knocks Ferg down, but he is straight on his feet, carries on fighting, but he gets put down again, and this time when he gets up, he's not even thinking straight. He's thinking himself, I need to get to the end of the round. And so, as he's going forward, he's not defending himself properly, taking punch after punch. The referee, he gives him a benefit of the doubt. But what should his cornermen do? Pull him out, throw him the towel. Exactly right, because sometimes we can. We get so task-focused in the moment of just getting the job done that sometimes we do switch off from safety. And sometimes it's up to the people you're working with to step in. So does this make sense? We look after his own safety, but as importantly, we look after everybody else we're working with and who we put to work. This is Fergus. 8 fights so far. On his 5th fight, he won his very first title. He does so well that I sponsor him. He's proud to be safe on all his stuff when he steps into the ring. And somebody said to me, just hang on a minute. You spend all your time talking about safety, but you sponsor a boxer, it doesn't make any sense. And I said, actually makes really good sense to me because every year he'll go for a full brain scan and a medical. If he passes, he'll get his license to fight for 1 more year. Trains really hard for a fight, but come fight night, very first thing he has to do is go and visit the fight doctor. If for whatever reason the fight doctor is not happy, cannot happen. But he passes, gets in the ring, wears his gloves, got his box under his shorts. What is another small piece of equipment Fergus wears for every single fight? Yeah, his gum shield to protect his teeth. How many times do you believe it's possible for Fergus to get into the ring and to forgotten not to put his gum shield in? How many times? Never. Because he does it every single time. And that is the place we've got to get to with safety. It is something we do every single time. It should actually feel strange and wrong to be able to work unsafely. Now, if you're going to tell a sad story, always play a bit of sad music at the start. It just sets the scene nicely. But this is not going to be yet another story of an accident. I'm going to tell you very quickly what I did. I'd rather share with you what a 5-second decision has done to my life over 22 years. So very quickly, January 3rd, 1993, 24 years old. I am married with 2 children. I am working for a roofing contractor. We've been on a job since Christmas, but bad weather, the job is running behind. The job itself, a repair of a large flat roof, one open edge with full scaffold edge protection, secure ladder for access. This is a pretty safe job. But around 2:30 in the afternoon, the site supervisor comes over and said, I've had a report of a leak on another building where we've not been working. As you're on site, could you take a look? I go across to my boss. He went onto the roof, came down, said to the supervisor, I have found your problem. This is going to be a 2-hour job. To which response from the supervisor was, do you think you can get this done in 1? It's going to be dark in an hour. This is causing me major problems. Can you do it? Could you do me a favour? And so we decided we would give it a go. Back across my boss, he went onto the roof, but I'm stood at the bottom because something is not right. The ground conditions that day were terrible. The ladder, not secured. So I have done the correct thing by stopping. But unfortunately, I did not have the courage to speak up. Before I know it, the boss is pinned over the top. Come on, get a move on. And then I think to myself, these guys know what they're doing. I climb the ladder, we get on the roof, we get the job done. And by the time we finished, I was the first one down. The ladder was being footed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I get to the bottom rung. The guy foot ladder, he thinks I'm down. He moves away. But I'm called back up the ladder. As I go back up, get about halfway, feel the ladder slip, and I fall. I can have been on the ground, a bit winded, but I actually think to myself, I'm okay. And it was only when I tried to sit up was the first time I became aware I could not feel my legs. So I'm rushed to local hospital. By the time I arrived, my wife, she's already there. Initially, I was taken for an X-ray, getting a siren to wait for results, and the door opens and the doctor walks in with a big smile on his face. And I'm watching him walk towards thinking, well, if he's smiling, this is going to be good news. Came to the side of the bed and he just said, you have been very lucky. You are suffering from a condition known as spinal shock. You've had a real nasty fall. And hopefully over the next couple of hours, a couple of days, could even be a few weeks, you will gradually get all your sensations back. Just think yourself very fortunate. But he then decides to meet for a CT scan for a close look, just to make sure. So go off from a scan, come back in the room, wife, she was sat on the side. This time the door opens, he walks in, and he's not smiling. And straight away, before he had even spoke to me, I knew. He came, this time sat beside her bed, and he simply said, "We have found a small fracture in your back. You have suffered massive spine injuries." And then he simply said, "You will never walk again." And with that, he stood up and he just left the room. I then went for a major operation, 2 silk rods are put in my back. And I was then transferred to a specialist spinal rehabilitation centre 50 miles away from where I live. I was told, "You will be there for up to 6 months." Now, I still truly believe I've been sent there to learn how to walk, just like it is in the movies. You're not. Now, me before my accident, if I saw someone in a wheelchair, I would simply presume they cannot walk. Do you know the not walking bit is the easiest bit to learn to deal with? I'm 24 years old, told to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. I'm now told you will also be doubly incontinent. So what does that mean? Well, for me, I have a really invasive daily bowel and bladder regime that after 22 years I still struggle with. I have to wear a bag. I use one of these condom type things. They're a lot better than what they were, but unfortunately they are not 100%. And so everywhere that I go, I just carry a bag of clothes with me. But without doubt, the hardest thing to learn to deal with is how you go to the toilet. You'll be given a small tube of laxative and some rubber gloves. And the simple instructions are, squeeze this stuff at your backside, wait about 10 minutes, put on a rubber glove, choose a finger, and I'll let your imagination what you have to do. And it was the first time since my accident that I cried. But I decided to get myself as fit as I could and get out of that bloody hospital. And on April the 25th, 1993, I was discharged. And I believe that that was going to be the end of my story. But after being out of hospital for just a day, my wife, she walked out with the kids. Now, in her defence, she was 23 at the time. My daughter had just turned 3. My son Sam, he was nearly 1. And she is not here today to defend herself and give you her side of the story, all about how my accident affected her life. And I suppose that it would be very easy for me just to sit here and to slag her off. And so I will. If I'm totally honest though, she came to that hospital every single day. Like me, she believed I was going to walk out of there. Now, we've had some problems for my accident, and you were told at the time, if your relationship has got problems, the chances are that it will not even last a year. And I get it. And your friends rally round. Well, blokes being blokes, we're not very good at this, and we know of only one cure to try and cheer somebody up, which is what? The drink. And it quickly became a problem. My dad's still working, all my friends are at work. My mum, she came round to help. I'm embarrassed I used to treat my mum. I vented all my frustrations out on her, so she just stopped coming round. I'll be sat in the house all day, bottle of vodka, drinking all day long. My friends were coming from work. They did not have a clue what they were supposed to do with me, apart from back down the pub, get me all drunk, and push me home. I wasn't coping. I was seeing a counsellor, I was on antidepressants, and all I had done before my accident was football. And initially, all my friends, they refused to go back to the game. I said, no lads, you know, don't stop with football. I am going to be okay. But this meant I started hanging around with a different group of lads. And it was common knowledge to everybody that they all took drugs. But I decided that I would knock around them because I would never get mixed up in anything like that. But after only a few weeks of not speaking up, it happened. I was out somewhere, one of the guys with came up to me, he passed me an ecstasy tablet, and I can remember looking at it to myself, my life is at rock bottom. It can't possibly get any worse. And I took it. And 20 minutes later, I sat there thinking to myself, I suppose life ain't too bad, you know. I've still got my kids. But this was me, drugged out of my mind. And the first time since my accident, I actually believed that I could cope. But I could never get that feeling again. And the next 2 years just spiral out of control. Nobody can stop it. Even my daughter Abby, she came to live with me full time. But it was too late. And in January of '95, I'm out somewhere, I take a couple of these tablets, I can remember starting to feel a little bit different. And the next thing I can remember is, I opened my eyes, I've not got a clue where I was. I was in hospital, in the intensive care unit, on a life support machine. I had been in a coma for 17 days. My mum and dad were told at day 15, there's nothing more we can do. We suspect he's got serious brain damage. Our advice is that you turn the machine off. Look for me, Dad said no way. On day 17, I actually opened my eyes. Now, the brain damage I suffered is not as bad as I expected, but I still do have problems with my memory. My speech at the time, I could barely string 2 or 3 words together. The symptoms were very similar to having a stroke. And I then spent the next 5 months in hospital. But I came out. I came out with a new determination. Abby came back to me full time. I used to see Sam as much as I could. I was still drinking far too much. I had started a bit of water skiing. I'm coping. And in 1998, 5 years after my accident, I was finally offered some compensation, but for less than half the value of my claim. Simply put to me, look, the end of the day, you went up the ladder, it was not tied on, and if this gets to court, 25%, 50% negligible, you are probably running a 50-50 risk of going to court and getting nothing. I accept the offer. But quickly told, we're sorry to say there are further complications. So, the year 2000, my son Sam, 8 years old, he came to live with me and his sister. Well, always on that day, my dad went to pick him up. He came walking down the drive, little bag on his back with his clothes. But what do most 8-year-old lads carry with them everywhere? Yeah, a football. And tell me how I'd missed this for 8 years, but I'm sat in the garden with my mum on the patio. It's a lovely summer's day. I'm now watching my dad kick a football around the garden with my son. And I just suddenly became aware that I was never going to kick a football with my boy. You know, football was a massive part of my life. And to know that all because of something I did at work one day that I knew was unsafe, I'm now kicked for my boy. Another battle for me was, do you know, you haven't learned to ride a bike, they've had the stabiliser on for a couple of weeks, and then it comes to the big day. Take the stabiliser off the bike, hold onto a bike seat, and then make a promise. You won't let go. But as they get pedalling away, you do let go of the bike seat. And then it is the moment they get to the bottom of the path, put their foot down for the very first time, realise they've rode a bike, and they turn around to look at you. And you're well up inside of how proud that makes you feel. Well, I sat and I watched my dad do that. And the guilt that I feel towards my kids of not being able to do things that dad should do, all because of something I did at work one day that I knew was unsafe. But it doesn't end. Abby and Fergus have just got married. How was I supposed to walk my daughter down the aisle? And when I had to get some grandkids, will I ever be able to pass my grandkids on my shoulders at the seaside? No. And all because of something that I chose to do at work one day that I knew was unsafe. But I got my kids, and I got the water skiing. In 2005, finally get my day in court. Their side do agree to pay the money we'd agreed on in '98. And my barrister said to me, continue and win, you'll get substantially more. But we are still running at 50-50 risk, leave here today with nothing. I again accept the offer, told her I paid within 3 months. It actually took another 2 years. So I was finally paid compensation, 14 years after my accident, receiving a cheque for £408,000. Now today, compensation claims for major accidents have risen. But the question I always ask is, how much compensation would you want, or do you think it's enough to spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair? Is there a figure that you will be happy with? I even when I'm on site, I ask this question to everybody I speak to, and everyone always shakes their heads at me. There's no amount of compensation worth that. And yet, still prepared to go back out there, and when it comes to it, take a few shortcuts, take a few chances, lean on the last squaff and get the job done. Because stuff like this always happens to who? Somebody else. Now, since my compensation, I've drove rally cars, done microlights, in gliders, done scuba diving, parachute jumps. Not one has come remotely close for me to say it's worth being in a wheelchair for. I detest the way I live. And quite bizarrely, the only good thing I have in my life today is now actually speaking about the thing that I have been trying to get about for 16 years. Because you know, if I could stop just one person having to go through something like this, then I will keep going. Now today, I do an successful company, own a couple of properties, driving a nice car, I've got some money in the bank. And some people now say to me, well, you should be happy. Do you know there is not one single day that goes by when I wake up, the first thing I see is this wheelchair at the side of my bed. And I think to myself, why didn't I just speak up that day? I get it all back in a heartbeat to have my legs back again. Now, I was very fortunate I got 2 kids. Back then it was virtually nil. It takes possible things like IVF, but it's still really, really difficult. You see, when I first had my accident, I always had another girlfriend, but you sort of hear the comments, and the comments were, just be careful, she's probably only with you because she feels sorry for you. And maybe do well in your life, get some compensation or a good job, and then you hear the comments, just be careful, she's not only be with you because you've got some money. And you actually hear then comments from your friends and your family. Never mind strangers. My day-to-day life is so complicated, I've got so many personal battles I deal with every single day, did I actually choose to live by myself. But at the end of the day, I went up the ladder and I knew that it wasn't safe, so you have to live with the consequences. But it's not just about me.
It only takes one change. It only takes one change. It only takes one change. It only takes one change.
So everything's got to be done safely. You only get one chance.
I'd not my presentations very long. I was approached by Outtakes making a safety DVD. And I did agree to it. And they can't do some film of me working, they did some film of me water skiing. And then they asked me, come in now and go to your mum and dad's and do an interview. And that was the first time that my dad spoke. And that is what I have done to my dad. Now, I can't watch that, I really struggle listening to it. But the reason I put it in there is because I used to speak about my dad and people do not believe how bad he is. If I rang him now and I told him I got a puncture in my wheelchair, he would break down and sob. If he comes out for a drink with me, he has a couple of pints and he still gets emotional. And this is now after 22 years. Some people say to me, well, I think you're a brave man for doing what you do. Well, when I listen to my dad, I do not feel very brave. What would have been brave if I'd have spoke up that day. Yeah, if I'd have challenged my boss or my supervisor, that would have been brave, but I didn't. My mum, after 22 years, she still sees a counsellor, she's still on antidepressants. My sister, she has been my rock, but my brother, he struggled. Not because he was embarrassed on me, but because there was nothing that he could say or do to stop me going the road I went. And the worse I became, the worse that affected my brother. And it will go through the rest of your family and your friends. You see, when you very first come out of hospital, nobody does anything that you can't be involved in. But over a short period of time, there'll be weekends away with football, with golf, with fishing. But as soon as they come back and see me, they are full of guilt that I was not involved. Now, I will admit, I have been a nightmare since my accident. I used to get absolutely blind drunk. I was always falling out of my wheelchair. I needed all my friends to push me home and physically put me to bed. And for some people, there became a point, it was just easier not to be around me. My kids, Abby's now 25. She's a lovely daughter. She even works with me now. Sam, he's now 23. And up until, say, 10 years old, I'd never had a problem. Then one day, he came from school in his football kit from training. He sat right in front of me. He asked me a question. Why have we never played football, Dad? And I wanted to lie and tell him I'm involved in an accident that was not my fault. But the look on Sam's face when I told him it was all because I had fell 10 feet from an unsecured ladder. And the look on his face. Now, I've sat and told you about my accident and the impact on my life. Do you know the hardest thing I have to deal with every single day is actually what I have done to my family and my friends? In 2013, myself and Outtakes involved in a new film to be made. It's not really about me. This is about my kids and my friends. And they speak about things on camera they never told me. Like, one of my friends had my football boots in his bag for 5 years after my accident. He took it to every single game. Abby, she talks about how upset she gets. Sometimes when we go shopping, she will notice people actually just stop and stare at her dad. Sam, he talks about having a minute if he was able to have just 1 minute to play football with his dad. Now, I'm so grateful for Outtakes in a way, because we sat and watched it and we decided that we're not going to sell this film. It's free. You can stream it live from websites, on my page, on YouTube, on Facebook. Don't care where you watch it. But I'm going to set you a bit of a challenge, because what I really want to do is film. I want you to take it home. Sit down, watch it with your husband, watch it with your wife, watch it with your kids. And maybe you'll actually say it ain't going to change, but you can at least be honest with your family and explain, because of my attitude to safety at work, maybe one day you can be making a film about me. We've got to stop doing safety because we have to, and start doing safety because we choose to. You've got to put it in there. Because there comes a point you have to make your own personal commitment to safety. And if you would like to demonstrate your commitment, by the way, if you follow the link on the card to the Facebook page. Do not worry if you don't have to use Facebook. Ask your kids or your grandkids. I'm sure they'll show you. So easy. And to make your commitment, all you have to do is click the like button. And that number in the middle goes up. And now we're just shy of 4,000 people. Last year when we launched this, we then spoke to a further 10,000 people. 2,500 people did that. Which actually chose more than anything. But 7,500 people didn't. Start being safe for yourself and do it for your families. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.